Hello and welcome, my name is Alistair Bain, and in today's video I'm going to be sharing with you some of the key concepts that went towards building the Seacoast United Phantoms game model within the 2017 USL PDL season. The first and probably most important piece of the attack phases of play focuses on build-up. So the first thing we're going to look at here is the horizontal spaces between our opponent's attacking sheet. Once we've established where the gaps are horizontally, we also have to factor in where the gaps are vertically. So looking at the spacing, for example, between the 9 and the 10 and how big an area that is, but also between the wingers and the fullbacks. So in this particular shot we've started in a 4-4-2 position. We're now going to move both midfielders in the spaces between the striker and the number 10, but also to go in behind the two defensive midfield players. We've now asked both strikers to stretch wide and stand in the spaces between the opposition fullback and centre back. We're standing in these positions to hopefully pull out the opponent from their default defensive position, but also to prevent them from pressing forward as a group and advancing up the field. The next phase in build-up is trying to create a 3 versus 2 or a 4 versus 3 scenario in wide areas. We'll see here we've created this by having our fullback stretch high, but our winger tuck into the half space to create the 3 versus 1 or 3 versus 2 pocket on the ball side. Now as we advance forward, we break the midfielder's line by an outside ball from the winger, and it now allows our fullback to draw out the opposing number 3 and play into an area where the opponents are now defending with 3 players versus the 4 that they started with. An example of this in live play is the number 6 now drops forward and pulls out the opposition number 10 that's standing beside him. We've actually asked both fullbacks that are highlighted here to come into central areas to give us a central overload and create a 3 versus 2 in the midfield zone. So now when the left back picks up possession and plays a forward ball, a further overload happens in the opposition's back line as we have 5 strikers against the opposition's back 4. So now we've established what build-up play is, let's look at how we pass through the field to advance forward into our strikers. So what is a vertical passing pattern? Ultimately it's building the ball through the 3 central zones of the field in a forward motion, allowing the rest of the team to collect and move forward. So when we find ourselves in attacking positions, the unit is moved forward as a group and we've maintained a higher position. Here's an example of the club's PDL team. Here we see the opponent is set up in 3 lines of pressure, and as we build forward, they've used up, back and through passing techniques now to allow the central midfield to drive the ball forward and then advance into wide areas, stretching the opponent's back 4 and allowing us to cross the ball in unopposed positions, and allows the central players to get into the box again to find an attacking spot. In closing, we'll see here that the rest of the units moved themselves further forward and allowed them now to advance into higher positions in the opponent's half. The next concept in the game model is that of the use of inverted fullbacks. What this does is create an extra line for us to build through moving forward, and ultimately allows our midfielders to take up higher positions. Here we'll see in the initial build out phase when the centre back split and the number 6 drops in, the 2 and the 3 move into central areas, creating that real overload in that central pocket. So we'll see here the fullbacks have been highlighted, they've moved inside before the kick's been played. Now once the number 6 drops between the centre backs against the 3 forward players, the fullback's positioning now allows us to stretch the 2 central midfielders and play into a central zone to a player who's now free, which in this case is our striker, who can then lay a ball off to the wide areas, which now is a 2 versus 1 overload, and it allows our winger to advance forward, attack the space in wide areas. In this next example we'll see the left inverted fullback drops now into a central position, creating a 4 versus 3 against the opponent's high press. Now that we're able to break that line of pressure, the left winger and the left central midfielder combine, allowing us to play into a 3 versus 2 and advance forward. Again, we'll see here both fullbacks are highlighted in the midfield zone, so as play works its way across, the number 6 now plays to the left centre back. Now once we break this line of pressure, we'll see the left inverted fullback's positioning is about to draw pressure from behind him. In this next shot we'll see it's the centre back who gets drawn in to go and defend into the midfield line, leaving the striker in behind him completely exposed for this through pass. In the next shot here we'll see as the 6 advances forward and is about to play, the 2 inverted fullbacks are either side of him, which is now drawn in the opponent's wingers to take up a narrow position. So once the ball's played wide into our winger, we now have a 1 versus 1 in the wide area, but in turn a 5 versus 4 again across their back line. In this clip we'll see both fullbacks again taking up high positioning. The right inside fullback this time joins in with link-up play, and now once the ball has reached the wide area, both fullbacks are able to advance centrally in almost completely unmarked positions, and the right back now is able to get onto the end of a cross and does extremely well to score. The next mechanism is the use of platforms. Okay, so platforms are moving the ball into players in between opposition lines. So we'll see here the left central midfielder has taken up a higher position, which now allows the number 5 to play a vertical forward pass in between the lines, breaking the midfield and forward lines of pressure and allowing the midfield to advance forward from there. In this next clip we'll see as play shifts across to the left hand side. The pass now that's played into the platform is to the striker, who's already positioned between the 2 lines of defensive pressure, and now is able to set back to a winger who's also within the platform, who can then play the forward pass to the weak side winger. So while in these last couple clips we've saw platforms created between the opponent's back line and midfield line, the same can also happen between the opponent's forward line and midfield line. Here we'll see the defensive midfielders positioning between the opponent's forward press and midfield line and allowing them to now turn and build forward again in that platform position. So the last technique within attack play we'll be looking at this season is half spaces. The half spaces essentially are the 2 areas highlighted in yellow here as we divide the field into 5 vertical channels, and are structurally the weakest point of the opponent, essentially due to the spaces that are left when central players come to press the ball between the lines of play. Here we'll see an example of play building into wide areas. The number 8 now is positioning himself within the half space, is now able to find a spot between the 2 lines of pressure and then play a forward pass into the striker. Here in this clip from the club's PDL team we'll see the centre back is now able to advance forward. The right sided central midfielder takes up a high position between the lines, and now as he comes towards the ball he draws pressure and now allows an opening in the opponent's back line for our centre back to pass into. In this second example we'll see as build-up play shifts across to the right hand side, and again our right central midfielder is able to pick up possession again within the half space. He now drives forward and causes a motion not only on the ball side for pressure to come out of the back line, but also on the weak side as he shifts across the field, that the fullback now gets pinned too high and he's able to penetrate the back line with a through ball to the left winger. The next mechanism we're going to look at here in attack and transition is that of keeping our positioning across all 5 channels as we break forward to goal. So in this example here we'll see the ball being played to our winger on the right hand side, who advances forward staying in the wing. Now the central players and the weak side winger maintain their positions until they reach the final third. In doing so, we're asking our opponent to defend the maximum amount of space that's given to them. So now once it reaches that final third and we make our attacking movements, we're doing so into areas where spaces perhaps have been given to us by the opponent, or natural gaps in play happen as they go to press the crosser. Here we'll see the ball advances into wide areas to our fullback. Now what we've found is once the ball reaches the final third, we have natural gaps in the opponent's back line that both strikers can now advance into, and we also have a weak side and an attacking midfielder underneath those players to give us some attacking options. In this next clip here we'll see building from the back into our defensive midfield player, that now once it's played to the wide area and our left winger advances forward with the ball, we're doing so by playing into positions that stretch the opponent's back line, and now once it reaches the weak side, we're playing into a 2 versus 1 at the back post, which creates a shooting opportunity. So in closing, the clip we're about to show encapsulates everything that takes place in this video. It's a goal that the team had scored that brings together 4 or 5 of the different fundamental aspects of the team's game model, but also shows the individual qualities required in order to put this game model into practice.